Dragon Age: The Veilguard is not the commercial success that a lot of people seem to think that it is, and there's a lot of reasons behind that. That doesn't mean that it didn't sell well, but what I'm saying is it didn't sell well enough, especially for probably what EA was hoping for. Now, there's a lot of stuff to go through here, but there's also a lot of things that are getting said lately that lead me to believe that Dragon Age: The Veilguard is in fact a failure in EA's eyes. So let's get into it. That's right, Dragon Age: The Veilguard released, 2 weeks ago, or just a week ago on Halloween, and it seems that a lot of players turned out for it. In fact, almost 90,000 peak concurrent players turned out for it over the weekend, but that doesn't exactly spell success for the franchise. In fact, it might have killed it. So going over here to Forbes, Paul Tassi wrote just a few days ago, "No Dragon Age: The Veilguard DLC as Bioware goes all in on Mass Effect." Okay, it's been said that Dragon Age: The Veilguard isn't like the past games in a lot of ways, and there's one more thing you can add to that list. Yes, not doing DLC for your highly successful game seems a little strange. Bioware has said that they will not be making DLC for Dragon Age: The Veilguard like they did with Trespasser for Inquisition or Awakening for Origins. Inquisition especially had a number of large and small DLC packs after its release in 2014, but Veilguard will not. Well, probably. The exact wording in the Rolling Stone article that discusses this, I would strongly recommend everybody go check that out, says there is no plans for downloadable expansions, but I don't think that's meant to leave the door open for smaller DLCs either. So they might have maybe smaller DLCs, maybe some armor packs, maybe some quick cash grabs if they think that it's going to be viable. But again, I just don't think this is a good look for the game itself. It's why would you say that this is a commercially successful game and then offer no continuation of the game afterwards? That just seems counterintuitive, especially in the day and age that we live in, even for single player games. Rather, BioWare's full attention has now shifted entirely to the next Mass Effect as their current project. So everyone who was working on Dragon Age is now moving over to support the Mass Effect 5, obviously a huge priority for BioWare and arguably a more important release given the higher profile of that series and how BioWare wants to get back to its glory days, releasing 90+ scored installments for the franchise. Here's the issue with that. BioWare cannot go back to the glory days. The reason they can't go back to the glory days is because it's not the same team. In fact, it's not the same BioWare. To the best of our knowledge, most of the people who made the old school games, old school Mass Effect, old school Dragon Age, they aren't there anymore. And to even kind of prove that, it was said by, the creative director or the Dragon Age boss over here on PC Gamer. Dragon Age boss says a Legendary Edition style remaster of the old games in the series is unlikely because there's maybe 20 people left at BioWare who knows how their engine works. I'm sorry. I thought game developers could learn how to do this thing called game development, meaning that they could learn other things in game development and maybe learn how an old engine works so that way they could do remasters. You know, Dragon Age: The Veilguard is a hit, but creative director John Epler recently said that BioWare currently has no plans for downloadable expansions. Obviously, we read that already. And he says, I think I'm one of about maybe 20 people left at BioWare who's actually used Eclipse, Epler said. It's something that's not going to be as easy as Mass Effect, but we do love the original games. Never say never. I guess that's what it comes down to. So here's my issue. If for some reason Epler was, a competent leader, don't you think that he would be teaching any of his subordinates, any of his employees how to work with the old Eclipse system that they had in order to remaster this? If it were a viable strategy for them to do such, why wouldn't they? In fact, I know a lot of people that would probably run out and buy remastered versions of the game. Heck, I'm nearing the end of Origins myself right now, having a great time with it, and honestly, seeing it in a higher fidelity would be really cool. But overall, I think that Dragon Age the Veilguard did not meet the expectations of EA. And to go into that, let's go over here to Steam DB really quickly and look at some of the tracking. All right, over here. So as you can see, the all-time peak was 89,418. However, here are some of the numbers that really pique my interest. Owner estimations. So by Play Tracker, they're saying about 170,000. By VG Insights, they're saying about 400K, and by Gamealytic, they're saying about 589.7. Now, I am not sure if those are specifically on Steam, but if they are, you could probably triple those numbers. That still does not look good for the game sales of this game. Let's be really, really generous here and say 589,000. So 600,000. We'll round up and be very generous. To round up and be very generous, let's say that between Xbox and PlayStation and PC, they sold 1.8 million copies, 2 million copies. Let's say 2 million copies. Roughly at 70,000, that's only $140 million. Or I'm sorry, roughly at $70, my bad. $70 for the game. I was estimating the $60 version, this $70 version, and then obviously the high-end deluxe version. So roughly estimating $140 million doesn't cover the budget for this game. Supposedly, this game was in development for 10 years. Supposedly, it started out as a sequel to Inquisition, and then EA decided it wanted to do a live service, so they reworked it and retooled it to be a live service. And then after the failure of Anthem, they went, no, don't do that. So they had to retool it again. All of that costs money. Now, Bioware itself as a company is about 1,000 employees, give or take, and especially during this time period, they were rapidly growing. So even on the low end, this game cost tens of millions of dollars every year. And Inquisition, a lot of people seem to think that Inquisition cost about $150 million when it was released, which it stands to make some sense. However, Inquisition had a smaller development time and it had a smaller team working on it. There's no reason to believe that $150 million is what this game was developed for. In fact, I would estimate that the game probably was developed for around $250 to $300 million, based off of the size of the company, the development time, and the average wage salary of game developers, which is around about $100,000. When you start to add up all of these numbers, and even just being really, really cautious about it, this game is looking to be $250 to $300 million in development costs. And if any of these analytics are correct, and if my wild estimations are correct, just spitballing here, and they only sold 2 million copies, that's not enough to make their money back. They would need to double, even triple that. And then on top of that, you get the 30% cost that Steam wants. Steam wants 30% to host on their website, PlayStation Network, 30% there. Not sure what Xbox is asking for, but if it's another 30%, I mean, that's a lot of money. I do not believe that Dragon Age the Veilguard was a commercial success for EA. If it were, they would be planning on DLC to make more money off of it. But the fact of the matter is, they can't sink more money into the game because they didn't make the money back. It goes into the problem that we talked about a lot last month with various different game developers, the ex-CEO of Sony coming out, the game developer for Metaphor ReFantazio, the lead director for Space Marines 2, all coming out and talking about these long development times, these money pinchers, these bean counters, and the lack of focus on games and what really drives players to want to play them, and then also managing their budgets. You know, famously, the lead director of Baldur's Gate 3 said that they kept their budgets incredibly small because they wanted to make sure that they were within their budgets, and they stretched their money as far as they could go, and Baldur's Gate 3 was a smash success for them. It doesn't seem like these developers that are working for Bioware now have any concept of doing that. Not only that, but they lack the talent to even learn their old engine. What kind of game developers would you hire that can't come in and learn your old engines? I would say that's a prerequisite for this. And honestly, this is the problem with Bioware. They lack focus. They lack the talent that they used to have. They lack the leadership that they used to have, and they lack the vision that they used to have. Ultimately, you could blame EA for this. You could blame Bioware for this. You could blame anything you want for this. But the fact of the matter is, Dragon Age the Veilguard, not a commercial success. It was contentious in the culture war area. It's basically going to be a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 when you see what the scores turn into. And honestly, I just can't see it, guys. If there's an argument out there for this game being a commercial success, make it. Make that argument in the comments. I like when people tell me, hey, you're wrong. Here's why you're wrong. I have the data of why you're wrong. That's a great conversation to have. That's why I like having these conversations. But a lot of people out there, they just come down with their hot takes. I love this game and you're just wrong. Dude, you can love the game. That's fine. Dude, I love a lot of stuff that wasn't commercially successful. But that doesn't change the fact that it didn't make its money back. It didn't make its budget back. Because if it did, they wouldn't be shifting the entire team over for Mass Effect 5. And they really have to impress with that one because Andromeda was highly lackluster. In fact, one of the videos that I love watching, Salt Factory. Salt Factory does a great breakdown of Andromeda if you've never played it. So, I don't know about you guys, but I think we can chalk Dragon Age the Veilguard up as one of the year's final failures in gaming for not making its gaming budget back. And it may, over the course of a year, maybe a year and a half, but it definitely did not make its money back in its opening weekend. And with that being said, thank you all so much for checking out A Drink with Crazy. I do appreciate all of you here. And if you want to hear what else I have to say, there are some videos popping up on the window right now. Window screen. Oh God, I'm tired. It was a long day yesterday. But anyway, videos popping up right now would be absolutely awesome if you guys would go check those out. And as always, until next time, cheers, everybody.